morning, we're looking ahead to the Kisima Music and Film Awards, which is happening next week. We also delve into the art of producing podcasts. My name is Joseph Warung, and coming up, we hear from the organizers and participants of the Kisima Awards, a program that recognizes music and film talent in East Africa and beyond. In the middle of a civil war, some people in Central Africa have decided they can still have some level of entertainment with their canoes. Artists are taking over New York storefronts made empty by the coronavirus pandemic. This morning, we're asking for your thoughts and comments on the upcoming Kisima Music and Film Awards. Who are you rooting for? Let us know on our hashtag #NewNormal. But first, let's have a look at the COVID-19 situation around the world, starting with the global numbers. As at this moment, 65,532,296 people so far confirmed positive for COVID-19. Out of these, 45,375,093 people have so far recovered, while around the world, we've unfortunately lost 1,511,781 as a result of COVID-19. To the African continent, this is South Africa first. 800,872 people so far confirmed positive for COVID-19. Of these, 739,367 have recovered, and in South Africa they've up to this moment lost 21,803 people due to the disease. Coming home to Kenya, the figures here: 86,383 people so far confirmed positive for COVID-19. Of these, 56,464 have so far recovered, and unfortunately here in Kenya we've lost 1,500 people so far as a result of COVID-19. Now, moving on to our stories this morning. The novel coronavirus has battered Morocco, where daily detected cases are running at above 5,000 per day, and recorded deaths from the virus have topped 5,900 in a country of 37 million. The death rate has been relatively low at around 1.7% of recorded cases. But in the port city of Casablanca, the beating heart of the Moroccan economy, understaffed hospitals are close to bursting. Hard-stretched medical staff on the front lines of the pandemic since March are showing signs of exhaustion. But the government is hoping that by mobilizing 12,750 medics from the public and private sectors, military doctors, and the Moroccan Red Crescent, it will be able to hit its target of vaccinations. Images show the aftermath of an attack on Axum Airport in Ethiopia's dissident Tigray region, which Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has blamed on forces of the regional ruling party, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, opposed to the central government. Thousands have died in subsequent fighting, according to the International Crisis Group, while tens of thousands have fled into neighboring Sudan. The UN has been warning of a possible humanitarian catastrophe within Tigray, a region of roughly 6 million people. Though a communications blackout there has made it difficult to assess conditions on the ground. We signed an agreement giving unconditional access for humanitarian assistance wherever people are in need in Tigray, a senior UN official told AFP on Wednesday.
በትግራይ ክልል በተለያዩ አካባቢዎች ሽንፈትን የተከናነበው ከሃዲ ቡድን ህዝቡ የተገነቡ መሰረተ ልማቶችን ማውደምና በህዝብ መገልገያ ተቋማት ጉዳት በማድረስ ከስልጣን ውጪ ለህዝብ ጥቅም የሌለው ቡድን መሆኑን በተግባር አግጧል።
Traditional dugout canoe racing, a highlight of national celebrations in the Central African Republic at the beginning of December, is making a comeback in the capital of Bongi. The country's bloody civil war has stopped the event from taking place in recent years, but a decrease in the intensity of the fighting has allowed for a cautious revival of the popular contest. Mesmin Kumbaya, head of Ngaraba neighborhood, where the race is held, says before it was the Yakoma and the Sango who won the race, because at that time they used to pay for a big canoe which could take a lot of people, 80 or 90. Now they don't do it anymore. That's why the Mbaka win the race. Paul Dua, a paddler, says there are many people in the neighborhood who want to race, but every year it is the Mbaka who win. But today, the young people are determined for our district, for Ngaraba. There are 30 of us in the canoe, and we are determined. Now, the Nation Media Group has partnered with the Kisima Music and Film Awards, which is set to give musicians and actors visibility through its various platforms. Speaking during the signing, the Nation Group CEO, Stephen Ketagama, says that the company will use two key platforms to drive this: Nation.Africa and Lit 360. The show that airs on NTV will allow artists who do not have a label to promote their music and art. The Kisima Award says that their theme this year will be reawakening the soul and spirit of Africa through music and film. Artists from all over Africa wishing to make submissions can do so at www.kisimamusicandfilmawards.africa. The Kenya Film and Classification Board will be working with the Kisima Awards to establish the 4 levels by which the content produced will be classified.
We need to promote our culture through building such initiatives like the Kisima Music and Film Awards. A number of our young people and even older people have a lot of talent, and this talent has not been tapped. So what this initiative will do, it will provide a platform, and it will give you visibility where your talent, you can showcase your talent.
And it's time that Africa became proud of its own. We don't need to wait for the Oscars to celebrate our own. We can actually place a panacea or a platform where music, culture, and African stories can be written and told from our own perspective.
Our key stakeholders are actually the producers, and as we work together with them, we've come up with the program which we call Cinema Mashinani.
So welcome to our program this morning, and our big focus is on the Kisima Music and Film Awards, which is coming up next week. Now with me is a panel of some of the people involved in one way or another. First of all, here with me in the studio is Alice Kidong, who's a Nambwa FM film producer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
We also have Grace Karuga, project lead for Nambwa Film. Good morning, Grace. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
We also have Dr. Simiu, who is the Awards Committee Chair, Kisima Music and Film Awards, who joins us via Zoom. Dr. Simiu, good morning.
Good morning, Joseph and viewers.
Okay, welcome to the show. And a little later, we'll also be joined by James Smart to talk about podcasts and what Nation Media Group is doing in that space, and also sharing some of his tips. Okay, I think I'll start with you, Dr. Simiu. Now, the awards have been missing for almost 7 years. What happened?
Yeah, I think first, I thank you for giving us an opportunity to communicate about Kisima, and also we do appreciate greatly the partnership between Nation Media Group and Kisima Music and Film Awards, and also Kenya Film Classification Board, who've come in heavily in support of these events. We took a small break for 7 years, and that was a moment of reflection and re-engineering and re-strategizing that has actually culminated in the rebranding of the new, bigger, bolder Kisima Music and Film Awards. which is slated for the 13th of December 2020. That is next Sunday at the Sarit Center. Yes.
Okay, so it's back now. So what's new? What has changed?
I think for the first time in this industry, music and film have been celebrated together or in one ceremony. Prior, we used to have just Kisima Music Awards. And after a lot of reflection and also rethinking, we've seen a convergence of music and film, especially in, say, digital space, where you have the YouTubes, and also when it comes also to the plays. And this has given us an opportunity at least to tap the potential that exists on digital space, where music and film, especially in the African context, used to go together. And it is in this context that we thought it's important we put a convergence of music and film, because there's no story that is told or even a movie that is actually showcased without an element of music when it comes to African culture. I think stories used to be communicated in a way that not only captured the sense of the detail, but at the end, for memory, there used to be a story told behind it. And this is the kind of narrative we want to create, tell the real African story and communicate to the world our own. So as opposed to waiting for the Oscars and Grammys, we want to converge and bring music and film together and showcase the best talent that Africa has to offer to the world.
Okay, now, many of these regions in Africa, West Africa and so on, they've got their own regional competition. So why this emphasis on a Pan-African approach?
What you realize is that when we play just on the domestic space, we actually end up importing most of the movies or films or music that we listen of as Kenyans. But we want to change that narrative by pushing out our creative talent to the rest of the continent. There's a time that we used to have David Kabaka of Twisty, and also the song, this very beautiful song that has been played in Simba, and it's Hakuna Matata, Kenya Hakuna Matata, right? And it's been echoed and played all over the world. So we want not only to communicate what Kenya has best to offer from the winners, but also Africa has to offer to the world. What I would like to say is that yes, there are regional music for us. It used to be Kora, now it's over. Right now we have Afrima, but from this region, we don't have anything that actually provides our artists, both musicians and film producers, a platform that can actually bring out this context.
Okay.
Better forum. Yes.
Okay, Dr. Simi, thank you. Stay with us as I bring on board two people whose project has also been submitted to this Kisima Awards 2020, and that's Alice and Grace Karuga. Let me start with you, Grace. Welcome to the show. Why the film Nambo FM?
Well, Nambo FM, the genesis behind it has been, it's a youth-led advocacy change program that we worked on. There's prevalence, and we actually concentrated more in Kwale, the counties of Msambweni, Lungalunga, and Matuga, where there's a prevalence of commercial sex exploitation of children and child trafficking and child marriage. So our story is based on these vices and trying to expose the vices and what it is that needs to be done to alleviate or stop these vices. So that's really the genesis or the reason behind that. It's through the Girls Advocacy Alliance, a lobby and advocacy group that has about 300 members. And these members are actually young adolescent girls living in Kwale. And so they're actually the ones who co-created, if you can believe it, the script. And it was based on real life experiences. And we did that, we co-wrote that with our writers. So it's based on that and exposing these vices and seeing how we can stop these vices from happening. So that's really the genesis of it.
Okay. So Alice, from a creative point of view, what is the story of Nambo FM?
So Nambo FM is about a young girl who realizes the need to fight for the rights of young women in her community. and she's a radio presenter. And she's put in a situation where she even has to risk her job to just ensure that the children's rights are heard and the young women in her community are heard. And she rallies up her community to try and bring a point forward and a point across. So it's a story that develops in a very interesting way, from when it starts to how children are exploited, both sexually and trafficked, to the point where the community is engaged, and then we see the result of that community engagement. So it cuts across all the stakeholders in the community.
Oh, okay, and Grace, why Kwale as a location or setting for this story?
Well, one, because the program is based in that location, and secondly, also the prevalence of commercial sex exploitation in Kwale of children, and child trafficking and child marriage is prevalent in that location.
Okay,
Yeah.
and Nambwe as the title, why?
It's interesting you say that, because Nambwe is, the meaning behind that is like the word on the ground, the truth. And we are trying to bring out the truth. What's the word on the ground? What's really the thing on the ground?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Dr. Simiyu, let me bring you on board as well. Now, where are we at in terms of have you closed the room for submission of entries?
Right. At the moment, we've closed the submissions, and the judging is taking place. We have a Pan-African judging team of 10 that run across the various regions across Africa. We've actually segmented Africa into 4 regions. That is the Anglophone speaking, the Lusophone, which is Angola and Mozambique, that Portuguese and Arabic North, and also the element of the West. So we've got a lot of should I say, submissions that have come on board, and the judges are working hard on it. The judging process is 3 tiers. So after the submission, they're going to provide the list of nominees. So by latest Monday, we'll actually announce the nominees, and from then we have a public vote, after which the final winners will note the nominees. We note the nominees by Monday, then the winners will be actually aggregated after we get the public votes. So by Thursday next week, we'll have the winners at least clearly identified prior to the event now on Sunday at the Sarit Center.
And you say you've received quite a good response. Is that the same
Right.
from across the African continent? What's been the entries like?
Yeah, it's very exciting because we have entries across the continent, especially from Nigeria, quite a number. South Africa is leading with also the number of entries in film and music. Egypt also has come in, Algeria. And so far we got around 1,000. And once they were sorted, we singled out 300 that actually met the criteria. So right now the judges are working on 300 entries on film and around 250 on music that meet the criteria of judging.
Okay, thank you. Now, Grace, you've entered your film for this competition. What are your hopes?
Hope springs eternal. We are hopeful. Okay. Yeah.
What's been the response so far? We know that the film is already available. You've premiered it. What's been the response?
It's been quite. It's picked up, as in people have watched since we first aired it on 5th of September. So we've gotten lots of views, we can tell from YouTube, and people calling in and telling us, oh, what a wonderful film that it was. And I'm not saying that because we produced it, but just generally because of the story and what it speaks to young girls in this country and what they are facing at the end of the day. So, yes.
Oh, okay, and I hope we can be able to play the trailer at some point to the film. And for you, Alice, tell me about the cast. I noticed not all of them are professional actors.
Yes, so it's quite interesting because we were working with non-actors. So we were working, remember, with a community that Grace has mentioned of 300 girls who were the scriptwriters or the co-creators with a professional team. Then post that now we had to allow them to audition because the story is theirs. So they came on board and auditioned, and interestingly, I think the coastal region has such good talent in acting because they were a natural. We had a foreign director who was very amazed at the talent of acting. Some of them had never been on screen, actually more than 50% of them. So it was quite an intense training period. I think they had only a week to train and cram the script, and they did a fantastic job.
Now, the director, I believe, is he Dutch?
He's Dutch, yes,
yeah.
He's Dutch. He's
how did he cope with a Swahili script, a Swahili cast?
So the beauty about this director and why we went for him, he's very good with local language kind of films, international language, and you find he does a lot of social impact film. Remember, this is an advocacy film, so it's not your normal entertainment kind of film. It's trying to pass a message, and that is his key talent, so to speak. But he also had a very, very good first AD, Fred Ngeshu, who I think was very good at trying to translate what it is that the actors and actresses were saying. And he also had very good casting directors. So within all that, in a period of 8 days, we were able to do a fantastic job.
Okay, and Grace, what are you hoping to achieve with this film?
What we would want to see, or what we would hope success would look like, is the alleviation of commercial sex exploitation of children and child trafficking, because really that's the main message for this advocacy film, as Alice has mentioned, to see that reduction. And what would need to do is also provide, you know, income-generating activities beyond or other than what the girls are into right now. Is what else can they do to earn money, to earn, you know, to avoid economic exclusion. So that's what we would want to see as a picture of success.
Oh, okay, now I'm not too sure. When did you finish production, actual production? Or filming even?
Of filming, wow, it took a record 8 days.
Just 8 days.
To film a feature film, and that happened in October of last year, 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, a lot has changed since that time. It's a year on. The situation regarding mistreatment, domestic abuse, violence against, you know, even children has now peaked in terms of, you know, because of the pandemic that, that we're in. So perhaps the release of your film is timely in a sense.
Absolutely. You know, the sad news is that the prevalence has actually increased in this period of COVID-19. So we would want to have the powers that be to ensure that, you know, this is alleviated, and especially more so now, to take it even more seriously, because it is happening right under our noses. Yeah.
And Alice, what's the challenge of working with non-actors? On set? On set.
So the discipline of, just understanding the discipline of a production. But once you train them, we found that because the story was theirs and because they were passionate to tell the story, they were very cooperative. But with non-actors in a normal setting, you will really have to go through a thorough training just to make them comfortable behind the camera, look in the right direction, making sure they're not trying to remember their words while they're saying them. So there's all those challenges that will come about, but we were lucky enough to have a team that really was almost professional, so to speak, as much as they were non-actors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, to you, Dr. Simiu, normally with any competition, there are always concerns about the process, you know, how fair, etc. it is, and there have been challenges in the past, including some allegations against Kisima. What steps have you taken now to just safeguard the credibility of this process with the renewed Pan-African, you know, event?
Yes, thank you very much. First, I would like to say that when it comes to such events, the aspect of judging is very crucial and critical. And what we've done to make sure there's a greater differentiator between the past and now, after a moment of reflection, is that no member who has submitted a movie sits in our panel, or even music. No production house, no musician, or even anybody related to any aspects of that kind of industry. But what we have are very good professionals spread across Africa, and they're very representative as far as from Nigeria, we are from Angola. And what they're bringing in is that professional expertise to make sure whatever is nominated actually fits the beats when it comes to quality, when it comes to standards, and fits that level that actually we can say there's no compromise. and the judges are independent. The committee or the secretariat running the Kisima has no role and doesn't sit. No member from the secretariat sits in this judging panel. We only provide the secretariat support, and surprisingly, because of COVID, we are very happy when the issue of integrity comes into play because they're judging virtual. So it's a conference call that they run, they give their submissions, they give their voting, and they give their markings, and then that is aggregated independently. So we made sure that there is no room of collusion with any player at all.
And in terms of transparency, how have you ensured that?
The independence of the judges has been guaranteed 100%. And also when it comes now to presentation of the winner, it's going to be an aggregated vote. So it's not like one person makes the decision as a chair. So there's no element of influence that will come into play. And this is benchmarked against the Grammys and MTV to make sure we do not fall short when it comes to integrity.
Now, you've had 7 years of reflection, as you said. What are the learnings from the previous event, the awards previously?
Excellent. I think the greatest learning that we had was when it came to what you've attributed about judging and involvement of producers. That was the case that has actually been the string of Kisima from 1997. That's the only thing that people remember. And this is something that we've actually cut, removed, and ensured it can't be repeated. Secondly, the biggest also aspect of it is that we decided to expand the approach. And right now we are focusing on the African continent. And the reason is we thought the moment we just play at the domestic level, we do not give our film producers and creatives, especially on music and film, an opportunity to showcase our content, not only across borders, because Kisima was just music and it was East Africa. So this gives us a very good platform whereby we can control the content that is being communicated out there. And as you've heard from Alice and Grace, a movie that highlights the plight of kids in Mombasa or Kwale, actually Kwale, is something that if we were to wait for a narrative to be brought from the Oscars, can never fit the bill. Mm-hmm. But I believe from such a platform, I'm not saying we are going to provide that, but there's an element of our story being told from our own point of view by us. And that's what we'd like to showcase and tell the world. This is what Africa is saying, and this is the platform that we're giving. So the learnings we've had is we've changed the approach as opposed to nominations being brought physically. We have a portal that you upload. So the element of even contact with the organizers is limited. And that provides also safety when it comes to COVID and provides us that footprint across the African region and ensures that we are very, very much able to host this event above board.
Okay. Well, let me put that to the test. Grace, are you happy with the process of submitting and that there will be fairness, transparency with the new Kisima Awards?
Absolutely. I mean, they've had 7 years of reflection, so I'm hoping that from what Mr. Simio said, it shows that it will actually come to fruition. So I believe him.
Okay. Yeah. Now for you, Alice, filmmaking in the pandemic, how does that work? What have been the challenges? Generally now, not just about number. Yeah.
Quite interesting because it is tough. It is tough, and I think when the pandemic started, everyone was a bit scared. How do we do this? I mean, you're on set, you have a large number of crew. How do you go about it? But I think it's progressing quite well, and what is happening now, there are measures being taken on set. I mean, sanitize, wear a mask, and I believe even going forward, maybe we might be able to do tests and have them rapid tests if they come to Kenya and have that done. But it is quite a challenge, I wouldn't lie, and it's also affected quite a bit of productions, and whereas even some have been pushed because of the pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Grace, what's been your biggest headache on this production?
Time, lack of it. because
I'm surprised you didn't say budgets, because usually we start with money.
Oh, well, that's the second one.
It means you are okay.
there's a second. Actually, those two were on the same level. There was a time aspect because we had we did the production, the actual production in a record 8 days.
Why was that?
The period of the project that we had a timeline, so we needed to ensure that we met that timeline. That was one. Two, obviously, the usual is funds and trying to ensure that what you have works to the maximum, you know, just to ensure that money works for you.
How was the film funded?
It was a lobby and advocacy group, like, as I mentioned, the GA program, through Terre des Hommes, Netherlands, and the Plan International, who came as a consortium. We were actually very rigorous recruitment process that went through, that we came out tops, that we were now able to ensure that we worked on this project. So, yeah.
Okay. Headache number 2 for you, Alice?
Definitely budget.
Budget?
Yes,
budget,
definitely the budget. Yeah. And when Grace mentions the 8 days, it was literally because of budgets. And I remember even you cannot even afford to have a weather day because you're thinking you don't have the money to even extend the production. But we had a very dedicated crew. Being an advocacy film, they were putting in more than what they were worth.
For non-film weather day, what does that mean?
For non-film, okay. For non-film, in terms of just the budget.
When you say weather day?
Weather day, so it means if it rains, it means you have to cancel, which actually happened to us. You have to cancel that day of shooting and film the next day. But remember, you have a crew that is charging you per day, and you still have to pay them. So we really had to stretch out the budget quite thin to just try and make sure we are getting a quality film. And because there was a lot of cast, there was a big crew, and a lot of locations. This
must be quite stressful. You know, you've only got 8 days. You can't afford to lose any moment at all.
Yes.
You're working with non-actors, so someone comes on set, they forget their lines. You have to take a big stick.
You have, yes. And
well, not to beat them, but you know.
Yes, definitely not to beat them in per se. But also, what we were doing is we were trying, while they were acting, there was someone always trying to remind them of their next lines. So it was quite an intense. In fact, I think by the time we were done with that, it was a very intense period for the team. So I would say budgets were really a big thing.
Okay. Yeah. And now, Dr. Simiu, obviously this is just one of the entries you have, and we only showcase them because they're closer to us. We just wanted to give an example of people who've entered in this competition. For people like Alice here and Grace, who've filmed for a period of 8 days, do those kind of things come into consideration when you have others who've spent months working and perfecting their craft and their film?
Right. I think there are various categories that are available for entry, and it does feature very much because the aspect of a short film is provided, and we have that category that can capture that. And what we'd want is really to appreciate the kind of commitment and level of professionalism that people like Alice, I would say Alice and Grace, and the rest of the, say, submitters have actually exhibited in creating film at a time of COVID. And what we've analyzed is most of the films actually are addressing the aspect of COVID because this has been very, very ravaging to the industry. But on the same note, just to echo what Alice and Grace are saying, the issue of budget is critical, and financial support is really needed in this industry. We can't say that corporates in Kenya are not doing it, but I want to be candid here. I spent my time in Germany, and I saw how corporates are involved when it comes to art, and culture, and music, even film creation. So we'd want to request that corporates need not just wait after the production has been done to utilize that aspect of the music content or film content so as to come in as partners. I think it should start from the grassroots. At the point of idea initiation, we need to seek corporates at least put money in this industry.
Okay.
Creative mind like Alice and Grace shouldn't struggle. It shouldn't be. It should be given that is an amount allocated for this aspect, and it should be done. And I believe that's the only way we can appreciate this. We can appreciate this industry, not through handouts, not through one chance donations. No. And I think Kisima is coming from a point of view that it's been the norm that during the event you want to see somebody come with 100,000. It's just a pittance. And I think corporates who utilize this content need to come in, support the filmmakers, support the music creators, and please put in the money. And the government should work in a way that not only to provide an enabling environment, but a budgetary support that should be able to be provided to such dedicated Kenyans, because what they are highlighting is something that is touching you, Joseph, and is touching me, as opposed to waiting for MTV or say Oscars to nominate a movie and we start celebrating. We want to showcase what we believe are issues and aspects that are engaging us and evolving us and should be supported by corporates within this industry.
Okay, Dr. Simiyu, thank you. Now we can have a taste of this film, Nambwa FM. This is just one of the entries to the Kisima Music and Film Awards, and here's how it looks like.
Huu ni mwito kutoka msichana mchanga.
Hello, nisaidie. Ni mimi Jamila. Napenda. Hello.
Unaanzisha safari ya kumwokoa na kumlinda. Pamoja na jamii yake.
Tutaanza kwa baki Jamila kumtafuta.
Chakula changu kuko wapi?
Ulinipa pesa. Ni wakati wa kuwajibika.
Hebu mkulize ngapi? Nimekwambia useme hela ngapi unataka, usijali.
Kila mtu ni mtuhumiwa. Kila mtu yu mashakani. Jitayarishe ujue zaidi
Kwenye 109.9 Nambwa FM, ukweli wa kweli.
Nambwa FM ndio mwito utakaoimarisha jamii yetu. Nambwa FM ni filamu inayohitaji mwongozo wa mzazi kuitazama na inayoangazia matukio halisi ya maisha. Ni sinema ya kusisimua. Itikia mwito kwa kuitazama.
Alice, when you watch your baby now walking, what goes through your mind?
I am so humbled that this project finally came to fruition, because it was hard work, and I'm happy that even it comes as at a time when the prevalence of the exploitation of young women and children is so high, because that's what it's for. We wanted to make a difference. We wanted to be able to educate, because as much as we took 8 days to film, it was almost a whole year of planning and research and production behind the pre-production. So we saw the dire situation of those girls on the ground, and their plight cuts across the globe. It's not only Kenya. So for me, Nambwa FM, I keep on saying it's an advocacy film, because it needs to be out there, to be seen by people, so that they can give hope to these girls and they can get the right funding to support them as well. Okay,
for you, Grace, when you watch the trailer?
I'm still shocked that we did this. It was a labor of love, and the work that was put behind it, as Alice mentioned, was extensive, where we had to go into the community, understand the triggers of commercial sex exploitation, why it happens, you know. So understanding that from an imam or a kaya elder or a stakeholder within the government. So it's understanding all this and putting it into a storyline which has produced this baby. I mean, it's amazing. I can't say much more than that.
So, Alice, do the Kwale people feel that this truly portrays their lives?
Interestingly, when we went to screen in Kwale, some of them even cried. They're like, you have depicted this story so real that it reminds us of what we go through with our children, especially the women. And for us, that was an answer that indeed it has hit the right spot. at least first where it was produced, because we wanted them to own it, and they were able to own it. Yes.
Okay. Now, Dr. Simiyu, you've alluded to this, but I wonder what have been the challenges, adaptations of running the awards event in the middle of a pandemic?
Yes, we have seen a little bit of control because we wanted to have it open field for a number of people to drive in. But I think given the masses, our first priority was Kaliwaza venue, and we had to scale down the numbers to just make sure we get into a hall as a REIT so that we can actually meet the COVID regulations. And at the same time, when it comes to nomination, we had to adopt to the digital platform. Just we made sure there is a mix of technology so that the spread across to the various submitters. And we make it easy for them to submit from their point of comfort, which is their houses. And submissions have been done ably. And also the judging for the first time in any contest is being done virtually. So it saves us on cost and also gives us quality and content on integrity. So those challenges have been there, but we've adopted and seen a way to work with them. The event is going to be hybrid. It's going to be broadcasted live through Nation. And at the same time, we'll stream across the various 54 African countries. We partnered with the Music in Africa, a platform that creates content for African musicians across the continent. And we expect through this leverage and also Nation.Africa, which will also provide us that digital platform to reach quite a number of masses so that we can showcase what we have. But to carry short also, we want to work with, say, Liz and Grace through the Cinema Mashinani. It's a concept that has been created by the Kenya Film Classification Board, Dr. Ezekiel Mutua's team. So they've given us a Nairobi Film Center where we'll showcase these movies to the public, free, but we'll have to control the entrance. And also we'll take it to every county so that from, say, onset, we'll go to Nanyuki, then Kisumu, so that people can have a feel of the entries that have been nominated and also Kenyan entries so that we connect with what we are giving. And so this should flood other countries also. Thank you.
And so, Dr. Simiyu, I know you mentioned that some of the stories are touching on COVID, but broadly, what kind of issues are coming up, especially in the films? What stories are filmmakers telling?
I think the issue that affected most of the public is the restrictions and the challenges that most of the population went through during these COVID restriction moments, and the affliction on the families. So there are quite a number of movies that are showing the challenges that families had to undergo, especially the small-scale enterprise or informal sector. They show quite a number of challenges that cannot actually be espoused from another center. So it's quite a lot that has come in that shows the difficulties that families had to undergo, job losses that families had to undergo at this time, and also the aspect of being locked in and you find yourself with a family for parents who are not used to staying home all through. There are quite a number of aspects that have come through that I believe Kenyans will relate with, and also the entire globe due to the COVID scenario. But also deaths in family members is very critical, especially the breadwinners. So it shows the impact of these in informal sectors in a way or context that we can't really communicate that. Requesting public to wait for the films. When you bring them over, they come and view.
Okay, thank you. Now, Grace, when in making this film, Nambo FM, was there an option to use a Kenyan director?
Yes, but we looked at his skill. We looked at the current director's skill. And like Alice mentioned, the social impact aspect that he has had, the current director that we used, was a big factor for us when we came to telling our story in the way that it needed to be told.
It's very well told, but I was just wondering, could a Kenyan director have achieved the same?
Possibly, yes. They could have.
I'm just fighting for our people.
I think we should look at the bigger picture as well. The rest of the crew was indeed very Kenyan, very local, very Kwale-based, and there was a story to tell from there. And we were looking for, regardless whether they came from outside or within Kenya, what is their social impact experience? And because this was not the first venture that he got into in terms of social impact productions, we were keen to move with somebody who had that element of experience.
I was just checking that it wasn't a condition of the grant or the funds.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alice is sweating in the studio.
It's a bit hot, but yes. Get used to it.
Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think it was definitely not a condition on the funding. As a matter of fact, it was a coincidence that the funder was Dutch and the director was Dutch. But for this particular project, as I've told you, the budget was lean. And our Kenyan directors are also not cheap. So amazingly...
You're saying it's cheaper to hire a Dutch director than a Kenyan director?
For this, and the reason because of the relationships, because we had worked with this person before. So they almost came and did it for nothing because they were passionate about the topic. So you know the conditions in Kenya, the economic situation, to really get someone to direct for you a film and be there through a period of almost 2 months from pre-prod to production and post for almost nothing, it's hard and it's tough, and I understand. And already we had the 98% of the other crew were Kenyan, so it was only the 2% that was taken by the director.
Now, Alice, what's your biggest regret about making this film?
Regret? Wow.
Yes.
I wish I had more time in the field, because I think would even have been able to get much more from the actors. They were fantastic, but you could see them sweating and struggling to... I can see when I watch it now where we could have improved, as much as maybe someone else who is not so technical.
Give us an example.
No, I will not.
I'll point it out publicly.
No, I will not. Definitely not. That's for my eyes only.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll put it out there.
No. It's actually, the film is very good.
It is.
Yeah. It's just that with more time, I think every producer loves to have more time.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's just one of those things.
Alice, if you had the same bit of money, would you do this again?
The same amount of money?
Sorry, Grace, I beg your pardon. Sorry.
No, I figured out it was, you were referring to me. If I had the same amount of money, would I do it again?
Would you do this again, or has it left you completely shattered?
Definitely. I think it's also the reason why we did this. What was the story behind this? It's an impact story. It's an advocacy story. So I would, in hindsight, what I now know, I would do it better. I would make that funding work even more. I think we would be in a better place, actually. But I would not hesitate to do it again.
Oh, okay. Now, and so, Dr. Simiyu, to you as well. Let's talk about the actual event next week on Sunday, on the 13th. What are the prizes? Just remind us.
Yes, the charges 5,000 per person for entry, and the space is very limited, to be very honest, because it's an enclosed space and we must abide by COVID rules. So the earliest come, you get a space. Yeah, so I would just recommend the public, for those who are very keen and interested, you have very, very limited space. So
okay.
Book your ticket. Just book them online.
How does one book a ticket for the event?
You just go to www.kisimamusicfilm.awards.africa, and you'll get access there. There is M-tickets. You just key in and log on. Pay by M-Pesa or pay by a card. Yeah.
And for those entries, Dr. Simi, for those entries that win, what do they get?
The winner in film has 1 million to boot. And so we'll announce most of the awards on the stage during the event, yes. But that's the figure that has been donated by Kenya Film Classification Board, specifically for the movie industry, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, Alice, what's the next thing on your on your horizon? Creatively?
So we, as a company called Livestream, do a lot of advocacy work. And right now we're trying to see the possibility of creating content for early childhood education. Towards whether we will go the same direction or a different direction is up to the project. But our main focus is trying to create communication for development. So to have sort of a behavior change campaign where you go in and try and solve a solution. So not just entertainment pieces, we are more into the social impact kind of content creation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Grace, what does it take for those who are new to the film industry, for the role that you do, running this kind of project? What does it take? What does it require?
I'll have to reveal something. This was my very first one.
Okay.
So it takes grit and a can-do attitude, and a great team behind you, and a great partner in who I have, Alice. I think if you have that kind of support with the same mindset, a similar mindset, and really have a reason as to why you're doing it, then I believe you'll be successful in that respect.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to Alice, we see the producer in the creative space as the principal, the headmaster, or the head teacher who's always carrying a cane, who's making life very difficult for talent and so on. So what are the skills, what are the requirements for, to be able to put together a film such as this?
I think first and foremost, that narrative that you've just put out as a producer is the narrative that scares people from that job.
Yeah. But you are scary. Not you, but our producers.
Okay. But I think for you to have, remember you're putting your crew, you want your crew to give you the best.
Right.
You want them not necessarily to be your friends, but to be able to put out what it is, their best talent. And Kenya has got amazing talent. In fact, I keep saying we have amazing talent here. So for you as a producer, I think you have to balance and you have to be lenient, because there are a lot of, you're managing a crew sometimes of over 100 people. How are you able to balance emotions and work? You have to have what I call the guided dictatorship, or what I call wisdom that not only comes from the book, but just understanding how people function.
So you have to be a wise dictator.
Maybe, that's a good one. Yeah, so understanding how people function, because for anyone to give you their best, you have to understand how they function at their best. So if you don't understand that, then you will not get it out of them.
Are these things you learn from school, or you have to pick up as you go along?
From school, you learn the books, but this you have to pick up as you go along, as you interact with different people. You have to use your own intelligence and see, how do I deal with maybe a 50-year-old director and a 20-year-old director? They will come with their own implications. Okay. How do I make them gel with the team and crew? So you learn as the more you produce, the more you work on it, it comes naturally.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alice. Now we're taking a short break now, but just before we do that, some of your comments here on our hashtag #NewNormal. This is what you've been saying to us. We asked you your thoughts and comments on the upcoming Kisima Music and Film Awards. Who are you rooting for? And we have one comment here. Mwange Kibaya Isaac, it's amazing how these events motivate artists. I think it isn't a contradiction on my part, but we've got talent, and via these platforms, artists get to know what they are. Thank you. Thank you so much. Keep your comments coming in. We'll be right back with more on this discussion about the film and the creative industry.
Bila worries, Christina Naivas is now on with the biggest and tastiest offers this festive season. Every day, 350 winners Kula shopping voucher worth 2,000 shillings. All you need to do is simply present your Naivas card when you shop for your chance to be one of the winners. Naivas saves you money.
Did you know at Ruiru Mabati Factory you can open an account and lipa pole pole at your convenience? Did you know at Ruiru Mabati Factory, you can get customized sizes according to your roof plan to avoid wastage? Did you know Ruiru Mabati Factory offers free delivery countrywide within 72 hours?
To order, call us now on 0111 050 700. Ruiru Mabati Factory, mali safi kwa bei poa.
Lo haría sin pensarlo dos veces, porque te quiero ahí y hasta lucero.
It's always a full house this season when the family comes together.
To reconnect.
One thing we do, we watch GoTV. We love it.
Is everyone's favorite place this festive season.
Usimiss out, get GoTV decoder kwa shilingi 1999.
GoTV. Love it.
Sumo Premium Candles. It is made of pure, fully refined paraffin wax. It doesn't have smoke. It has long burning hours. It is non-drip. It doesn't smell.
Always smile and walk with Sumo Candle from Rock Industries Limited. For inquiries, visit our offices at Ndume Road off Lunga Lunga Road, behind Carton Manufacturers near Sinai Stage. You can also talk to us through 0722 575 619.
On Unscripted with Grace.
Newly married couple in that blissful period, honeymoon stage in your marriage, and then boom.
I was actually pregnant, but there were no kids inside. I asked God, why would you give me something and take it away from me? It broke me. It broke me. I went into straight depression, Grace, because my husband loves kids, by the way. He does. I would give anything to be able to give him that child, but I can't.
This Saturday from 8 p.m. only on NTV.
What a relief. Thank you, Gold Crown.
If regular milk makes you feel uncomfortable, try Gold Crown lactose-free milk. Milk that loves you.
Nawa mikono kwa sekunde 20 kama Elmo.
Let's go! Tayo, 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 Tayo. He's a friendly little bus.
There goes Tayo! He looks fantastic.
He's wonderful!
Well, it's really nothing.
He's a friendly little bus with his friends by his side, smiling in the sun.
Thanks a lot. I'll see you later. Anytime.
Every spoonful of Nutri comes loaded with the necessary vitamins, protein and minerals for you and your family to become healthier and stronger. Pick up a pack today from your nearest store. Nutri, every spoonful counts.
Welcome back to Your World, and this morning we're looking at the forthcoming Kisima Music and Film Awards. But just before we get back into that discussion, some of the stories that we have for you this morning. Australians describe their experience and the impact of contracting COVID-19 has had on their health. Fitness trainer Anna Liptak, who was 46-year-old, contracted the virus in March 2020 and still struggles with chronic fatigue, and says information for sufferers is scant in Australia due to its relatively low number of infections.
I think people are really in the dark and really scared. I'm on a number of Facebook pages with other COVID people, and it's a lot of people who are extremely scared. I get an ulcerated mouth. That's the other thing that is concerning. I get a really ulcerated mouth, which I have at the moment, so which is affecting my taste and the ability to talk, and it's sore, as well as this nose. So, you know, they seem to pop up.
And I expected in the fourth week, I thought another week, I'll be probably 100% okay. But then it all came back again. And then this kept happening. I went through a cycle of about every 10 to 14 days, the symptoms will come back. and then I'd gradually improved, and then it would hit me again. That happened about 6 times. That's not happening now, but what's happening now is I've just basically sort of a general level of what I call chronic fatigue. There are so many different symptoms you can have, and people get things going on and say, well, you know, this is happening to me. Has anyone else got this? Has anyone else got some information about it? And it's been great. And I mean, the Australian one's been good, but I just recently got onto the British one, and there are thousands of people on that with an awful lot of information. So that's, and I gather they're setting up clinics over there to deal with long-term patients.
Fires are threatening a residential area in Sydney, forcing some people to flee as more than 50 bushfires burned across New South Wales state on Monday, where a return to heatwave conditions is forecast.
Control in thick, dry bushland bordering dozens of Sydney homes. The blaze leapt out of the trees and into the neighbourhood.
They're gusting at least 100 kilometres an hour and funneling through this valley and coming up onto the ridges above where the houses are.
An army of vehicles, 100 firefighters and a water-bombing chopper desperately tried to contain it.
The fire's being fanned by very strong winds.
Before firefighters could save it, this home was well alight, sustaining extensive damage. Initial investigations suggest it may have been hit by an ember attack. Residents were quick to act, several fleeing before fire could spread, while most chose to stay and guard against further ember attack.
We've just been told to keep everything wet.
When I smelt it first, I saw a bit of smoke, so I ran inside, let everyone know, and then we let the neighbours up the street know, next door neighbours.
Mum said go to hose and water this house because she's not home, she's at work.
Warnings of what could be to come are loud and clear. Watch and act alerts were declared at Kenthurst in northwest Sydney and Falcon Bridge in the Blue Mountains. Both have been downgraded.
The community out there unfortunately thinks that after the last season we are not at risk of bushfire. The reality is 90% of the state is still untouched.
A suicide car bomber struck an army base in Afghanistan on Sunday, killing at least 30 security personnel in one of the bloodiest attacks targeting government forces in recent months. The attack occurred on the outskirts of Ghazni city, capital of the eastern province of Ghazni, which has seen regular fighting between the Taliban and government forces. It came as the government and Taliban are engaged in peace talks to end the war in the country that has killed tens of thousands of people in nearly 2 decades. The base is located on a vast swathe of arid land surrounded by mountains. No group has so far claimed responsibility. Every winter, Lorna Sapit and her cousins would warm their feet in woolen socks freshly knitted by their grandmother as the brightly colored pairs stack up in her cupboard. The 32-year-old felt inspired to share the creations with the world, co-funding a crafts venture that not only sells such handmade products but also delves into the seldom told lives of their mostly elderly female makers.
What drives us पनि त्यही हो. We want to be able to help elders live a healthy, happy life. चाहे त्यो उहाँहरूले बनाउनु भएको सामान, skills promote गरेर होस्, अथवा उहाँहरूको stories हाम्रो podcast, blogsमा भनेर होस्, अथवा just sharing their birthday pictures on our Facebook. हैन, it just gives them a lot of joy. It's also the tradition and the skills that we are trying to preserve. Each product has a story, historical and cultural value. Let's say we want to keep the legacy alive. So that's also one of our objectives.
Afghan authorities on Saturday burned about 25 tons of opium, heroin, hashish and hundreds of bottles of alcohol in a bid to show their commitment to fight drug smuggling. Piles of drugs as well as bottles of alcohol were set on fire in the eastern city of Jalalabad. The provincial capital of Nangarhar. In Afghan forces regularly destroy illegally produced or smuggled drugs and alcohol, and according to reports, police have detained 570 suspects in this connection. Production and sale of alcohol is banned in Afghanistan, even as the conservative Muslim country remains the world's top grower of opium, producing more than 80% of the global supply. Afghans themselves are large consumers of opium. Thousands of health workers marched in Madrid on Sunday in support of Spain's public health system, sadly put to the test by the coronavirus. With Spain, one of the European countries hardest hit by the pandemic, some protesters waved placards bearing slogans such as 100% public health and no more rubbish contracts. Organizers said roughly 10,000 people answered the call to demonstrate by the Maria Blanca or White Tide group, which is determined to put pressure on regional authorities they say are starving the system of sufficient investment. Health workers say they fear the new establishment has hoovered up resources which needed to be allocated more widely, including on staff recruitment. More than 44,000 people have died from the virus in Spain from more than 1.6 million cases. Artists are taking over New York storefronts made empty by the coronavirus pandemic, receiving invaluable free exposure and breathing life into depressed shopping streets.
This is the beginning of Art on the Ave for now. We're still looking at getting different spaces. We call this our peekaboo space. What I love about that is that it actually speaks to the idea of the project, which is looking through a different lens. I was just really depressed and I would walk up. This is kind of my beat, and every day there would be another one that was closed, or there'd be paper up or boards sometimes. And I just said there's got to be, you know, there's got to be something better that we could do with the space. This used to be a clothing boutique. It's a beautiful space, and so we leave areas where people can see inside, and we promise to leave the signage.
My piece is called We the People. The inspiration was the political climate that we're in and the divisiveness that we faced here in this country. And I wanted to celebrate diversity and the beauty. It's not about blue and red, you know, it's not about conservative, liberal. It's all of us. Art in public spaces is so vital, you know? Especially now, people are saying that New York is dead and this and that, and it's not true. You know, we're still here, we're still fighting, and I think it's important to share that. Not only for us, but for people seeing it. And I mean, to see a vacant store is a sad thing, but when you can, you can celebrate that space with art, it's so important. And it changes your mood.
I think it just brings a bit of energy and hope, in terms of pedestrians walking and exploring the neighborhood. If this was vacant, maybe they would just turn and start going towards a different avenue, but this wants to pull them sort of up to find more things to discover or more stores. So it really is bringing an energy and sort of a vibrancy to the neighborhood that would be missing.
Okay, beautiful stuff there. And talking about art, let's come back to our own art. With me is Alice Kidong, Nambwa FM film producer, also joined by Grace Karuga, who is the project lead for Nambwa FM film. And via Zoom, we have Dr. Fred Simiu, who is the awards committee chair, Kisima Music and Film Awards. Let me start with you, Grace. Now, just going back a little bit, spooling back to the process of getting this film on air. In terms of the storylines, How did you go about developing that?
Okay, thank you. We had 4 processes actually. We started off with research, where we went to the community. We talked to leaders in the community, whether it was cultural leaders, traditional leaders, you know, and the community themselves, the leaders within that community and stakeholders in that area, just to establish what were the triggers for why the girls get into these vices, whether it's commercial sex exploitation or child trafficking or child marriage. Because you'll find there's even an element of the family members also pushing the young girls to engage in these vices. So we needed to understand why. That was the first aspect. The second aspect was then we went into, once we understood that, we went into message design workshop. Again, we called the same stakeholders to ask them what kind of messages would we develop, can we develop that can help avert these situations. So how would you speak to, say, somebody within private sector? How would you speak to somebody within the religious community? How would you, what kind of messages would we push out? That was the second phase. The third phase was co-creation workshop. Remember we mentioned the GAA program, or the Girls Advocacy Alliance, has about 300 members. From there, they self-selected themselves to have 15 girls that we worked with to co-create the script. We worked with them with professional writers called Lamb Sisterhood. So they were holding almost for about 4 days, coming up with a storyline, what kind of town it would be, what kind of characters would come out of that. So down to the naming of those characters, down to the town, down to the, you know, the nitty-gritties of that storyline as you see it today. So that was the fourth aspect. The last aspect is that then we pre-tested that storyline and the messages within that. We went back to the community to test that information, to test that storyline, to see whether it actually is, they can validate it. And of course, there were amends that we made, and from that came out a full script. And initially, we thought we would not be able to make a full feature film, but the content that was there was amazing. So this is a film that is co-created, a storyline that is real and true to the ground.
Thank you. Thank you, Grace, for that. Now, Alice, it's encouraging to see some of the local films that we see here on Netflix and elsewhere, that a lot of that talent is inborn, is talent that's here in Kenya. What was the experience of, of your film? Did you use local artists beyond the actors and the crew?
Okay. I think one of the things I've recognized is that there's a lot of talent in Kenya. For this film, we collaborated even from music to art with local artists. So for example, our music was done by a budding artist from Kuru Kwanjenga, who's also an ambassador for Teredesm, and he scored for the film. And his music is really beautiful. So he designed all the music? He designed all the music for the film. So what happens to something like that is when the film gets recognized, he gets recognized. His work is also heard. So those kind of collaborations help to lift each other up because there's a lot of talent. Also in terms of art, unlike before, you find now the production designers are actually creating this art themselves, from makeup, creating certain looks. So I'll say there's a lot of talent, and we tried to just fuse that into our film, so to have as much as local collaborators as possible. Okay. Yeah.
Dr. Simiu, let me come to you now. Now, looking ahead to the awards next Sunday on the 13th, and it's all very good to have these awards that showcases all this work, but what we really want to see is Kenyans watching their own, consuming their own products, whether it's film, whether it's music, and and stuff like that. How do you go about encouraging that culture of consuming what we produce?
I just alluded a little bit about that, Joseph, to the fact that we are going to do county. They're called county film festivals and also music festivals, in the line of the content of the nominees and also the winners, so that we can actually showcase what Kenyans have chosen and what is ranking as top for them as entertainment when it comes to film at a platform and music, and showcased in these activities. So we've singled out Malindi as our first stop, and we are partnering Kenya Film Classification Board to take the first film festival there. After which we'll move to the other counties. Kisumu is on the is also on the program, Kisumu, Eldoret, and Nanyuki. So from then we'll see how to partner, and we'll engage counties so that we work on a very good sequence that will ensure a very good coverage of this art across the counties. And this is where we'll encourage not only people to consume, but we'll showcase what we have, because it's through showcasing that we'll create that interest. And once they get that interest, they start consuming. Then on the same vein, I would want to thank Nation, because you've been at the forefront of pushing the Kenyan art and music film. So we'd want also to request the other players in the sphere, in that space, to actually accommodate more Kenyan content. There's no point of us watching what is produced in the West because it's cheaper. I think let's engage, like the film number. Why not showcase it tomorrow in a major station like what you're doing today? It's this awareness that will make Kenyans appreciate what they have. And from then you can actually export this out to our neighboring countries. And through soft power, that's why we have got the institutes. All these institutes are here to bring their culture across. So we can also do the same by providing a panacea for these films and music to be showcased out, not only in Kenya, which will work with the county, but also across the other countries around.
So, Dr. Simiyu, in terms of bringing back Kisima Awards 7 years on, what's been your biggest challenge?
Our biggest challenge has been first putting up a team of experts that believe in the cause. Mostly, I think in this country, art and culture is considered as a hobby. It's not perceived as an industry, yet it's a very, very big industry. I think there has to be a change in mindset on how to approach it, and also recognize that we have professionals like Grace and Grace and Alice who are doing this, not only for a living, but as a calling. So the moment we appreciate it's an industry, then we can actually get the right people to work on it. And I think the biggest challenge I had was getting a team. Right now we have a very good team of experts, of a media expert at editorial level, that is Teye, Andrew Teye, David Okwemba, I guess Joseph, you know him very well. And we also have a team of film experts, that's Kathy Gitai and Mildred Ngesa, who's also at a very good sphere as a feminine boss in Africa. So we are working with teams that are really like have talent and are ready to actually showcase what we have.
Okay.
Lastly, the big challenge was finance. And we had to go to various sponsors, knocking doors and all that. But we are very happy to say that Nation Media came through very well and early in time for us to engage in communication. At the same time, the Kenya Film Classification Board. We have also partnered with Music in Africa. And I was very happy when you showcased the click on arts taking the scene in Europe. In America, we have Kyoko Mutiki, who's doing our trophies. So we are not importing them from China. We are making them home.
Okay.
So we are supporting the industry to grow also in all spheres.
Dr. Simiyu, thank you for that. And for you, Grace, what's your view on how do we get us Kenyans consuming our own stuff?
I think we need to be, and I think we have been patriotic. And the playing field has actually been leveled, seeing that we have many online streams, facilities that are available in the country. So it's to really get our people to support our own people, support our production, support, and it's not a hobby. You know, Dr. Simiyu mentioned that, you know, they regard the work we do as hobbies. It's not a hobby. And thank you, Dr. Simiyu, for mentioning that. It's
hard work, and
it's hard work. It's passion, and it's high time that our industry is actually recognized in that essence. Yeah.
Indeed, Alice, could you see yourself doing something different from what you do now?
No, because I love what I do, and I can see the change after it's done, especially to the people that we do it for. So just to add on to what Grace has said, I think what Kisima is trying to do is a brilliant way of starting to make Kenyans consume our own content. So getting out into the counties, I think it's fantastic, and Dr. Simiyu, thank you for that. And also to have media houses also to showcase these short films, the feature films, and not charge.
They also need to make money, unfortunately. But in terms of stories, though, what stories are we telling or should we be telling as a society?
So one of the things I've come to appreciate this year is that even as you look at the content that is out there, we are starting to tell our own stories as Africans. And I think that's the only way we can be able to influence our society. Because as before, we were telling stories that were not our own. But I think we should tell our stories because we have certain milestones to reach as a country, as a continent. And it is only through telling our own stories that we'll be able to reach those milestones.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, let me throw that to you as well, Dr. Simiyu. In terms of our music, our film, our art, what stories should we be telling?
I think I'll just start by saying development is actually culture first. It's about us embracing what we have and the diversity that we have. And as a platform, we want to make sure we choose what is relevant from our context that we'd like to communicate out there. And just to echo what Alice is saying, all along we've been relying on other people to tell the African story. But I think through this platform that Kisima Music and Film is going to provide, we'll adopt the stories that are coming from all quarters or all centers in the country and also spread it across the continent and provide a platform where the rest of the world can actually pick what we want heard, not what they think of Africa as. So it's an opportunity for us, not only the creative industry, but all of us in the film and the music industry, to see how we can actually create and project what is important for us and how we'd want to be perceived. Because branding starts with self. And if we want to project a positive image about our country, it starts with us. Just the way Grace talked about patriotism. We have to be patriotic, we consume our own content, we believe in our own content, and whenever a Kenyan film is being showcased, feel free to pay the way you pay when Hollywood movies come. There's no lesser actor. It's the same effort that goes into the movie. And same case to the music. I don't understand why when you have a local artist performing, we actually call them local arts. They're the starter. This does not apply when you go to festivals out there. They bring their own and they're the ones who actually feature and people pay.
Okay.
So let's believe in what that belief, we can create our own brand that will be appreciated across the globe.
Thank you, Dr. Simiyu. We are out of time, so let me just get some closing thoughts from our panelists. Maybe starting with you, Grace, your final thoughts as we come to a close.
Go watch Nambo FM. We are on YouTube. Thank you.
You're a true marketer. If we forget nothing else.
That's my background.
You're doing it really well. I see why they brought you on board. Yeah. Okay. Alice, I think for you give a proper pitch.
I'll try to deviate away from what she said. Right. So my final closing words is that I appreciate platforms like what Kisima and the likes are doing, because that's the only way it allows us to showcase what we have done. And if we could get more funding into productions, more funding into rewarding the production team and the crew, I think will really motivate people to consider this industry as a money-making industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the one story that you're really waiting to tell if only funding was available for you now, Alice?
Of a story of a warrior in Turkana who, by all means, is trying to source for food for his community, but he's doing it in a very interesting way. I won't divulge details because someone else can grab that idea and go and find out who that person is.
What's stopping you from making that?
I'm still trying to chase funding for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
And Dr. Simiyu, you have the final thought in really, literally just 10 seconds.
Kisima is going to be a premier event, so I'm just urging all of you to make time, slot date 13th of December 2020. It's Friday. Next Sunday, the Sarit Center. So I urge you to come in and also tune in to Nation, because we'll be streaming the event live and also showcasing what's happening at that forum. So all I can just say is this is the premier African film and music event on calendar this year.
Oh, okay. Dr. Simiu, we wish you all the best. Obviously, NTV is right behind you, and we will be following on our screens what you do next Sunday on the 13th. So thank you so much for your time, as well as Grace Karuga, who is the project lead on the Number FM film. And here with me in the studio, Alice Kidong, the producer of the film. Thank you all so much. We'll take a short break. When we come back, our last part of this program, we'll look at podcasts. What is that all about? How do you go about it? We've got a man, James Smart, who is very smart about these things, and he'll share with us. Stay tuned.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Malkia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku.
Piga star 444 hash utunukiwe credo double.
DJ Mo, the roughest and the toughest.
And the biggest reggae show kama kawaida, I'm talking about NTV's Jam Down, will be live on your screen. I'll be with the one and only Kevin from the main group of Voicemail.
Yo, check it out, Skill and Steady. I don't know, this is the boy Kevin V. I'm here to say, yo, check me out live. Wait down and tell the people, NTV, Kenya's #1 station this Saturday.
From 10 p.m. Hey, you know that.
You don't want to miss it. Don't know, hosted by the beautiful Miss Katiwa and the whole entire crew. Check me out, make sure I'm see it, you see?
Oh baby, baby, it's a wine.
Akili, 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 akili. Let's chase the germs away. Let's chase the germs away by keeping our hands clean. And when you want to sneeze or when you want to cough, do it in your elbow. Let's practice sneezing into your elbow. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Achoo! Again. Achoo! Yay! You did it! Germs, germs, germs. They make us sick. Germs, germs, germs are not our friends. Germs, germs, germs. They make us sick. Germs, germs, germs. Germs, germs, germs are not your friends.
That the pandemic is pounding the continent medically, socially, and indeed economically is no secret. Yet in that, a wave of innovations and new ideas is lifting boats across the shores and shaping the future of this great continent. Join me, Edmond Nyabola, on the 8th and 9th of December 2020 for the second Kusi Ideas Festival, live from Kisumu.
Greetings from New York, and this week on Daring Abroad.
I got the appointment right in the middle of COVID.
Meet Sandra Ojambo, the Executive Director of the United Nations Global Compact. Also on the show, Kenya Airways is back on the Nairobi-New York route. And on My Magical Kenya, why Buffalo Springs National Reserve in Isiolo is a key tourist attraction in northern Kenya.
What a relief! Thank you, Gold Crown.
If regular milk makes you feel uncomfortable, try Gold Crown lactose-free milk. Milk that loves you.
They recognize that there is no wall that you can build that can keep the enemy away from you if God doesn't keep you safe. And that's a big lesson for us.
Nawa mikono kwa sekunde 20 kama Elmo.
Huyo jamaa unaangalia hapo unamdespise atiana form. Hey, shida. Mungu halali, kuna day utapatana na yeye ameomoka mbaya. Gari ni ile nono na life inamwendea fiti. Na wewe umechapa. Mako. Do hivi, jisort na umorio. Mjenge life. Usije ukaregret maze.
To get Gisort na Morio by Vuma, dial *811 *930#. Skiza na Nation.
Every spoonful of Nutri comes loaded with the necessary vitamins, protein and minerals for you and your family to become healthier and stronger. Pick up a pack today from your nearest store. Nutri, every spoonful counts.
Yes. Yeah. Welcome back to Your World this Friday morning, the 4th day of December. And today we're focusing a lot on art. We've just been discussing the Kisima Music and Film Awards. Now we want to switch on to something a little bit different, and that's audio, to be specific, podcast. And with me in the studio is James Smart. Good morning, James, and welcome to Your World.
Thank you for having me.
Okay,
yeah.
Now let's start from top. The last time some of us saw you, you were on the screen. Now you're hidden behind computers and microphones. Why that transition?
Yeah, so last time I was on screen, and screen is a beautiful thing. I love the screen. I think it's a different medium that gives you sort of a different thing when people can be able to see you. People are able to connect with you in a very different way. Then I went through this journey of divorcing myself from the screen. And specifically just trying to follow my original passion. I first started on radio, and so I grew to TV, which did amazing things, still continues amazing things. And now I'm trying to get back into sort of the audio world. And the beauty about audio and specifically podcasting that we're going to talk about is this idea that you can close your eyes and see things without seeing it. Because, you know, TV, we have to show you things. In audio, you have to create the mental pictures for yourself. And that has always been a beautiful thing in my world. So that's what I'm trying to do now. That's what we just launched a couple of months ago, Nation Audio. The whole idea is...
Yeah, talking about Nation.Africa, Nation Audio. What's that all about?
So there's different mediums on how I think we reach our audiences. Obviously, TV is a big part of how we reach audiences. Newspaper as well, and the digital, go find pictures, go find stories on how we've written them, and there's that space. But there's one bit that is missing. Can we able to reach our audiences through the world of audio? That's what we're trying to do. And so to be more specific is Nation Audio will try to sort of give us another edge. We know that viewers are 360 and audiences like to, they just don't read, they just don't watch, they do things across board. So we want to be in that space as well. We want to tell stories. We want to sort of get into topics that are not newsy and a bit difficult. Things about lifestyle, for instance, career. Those things are difficult as a concept if you just make them as news concepts, or sort of TV programs. But in sort of audio world, in podcasting, it's different formats and it's able for us to do. So it's an ability for us to get into topics that are a bit difficult for us to do as sort of as a hard news space. Also exciting thing for us to do in hard news space, to tell stories in a very different way. Now,
in a world where we, all around us, we're visually stimulated, basically from your phone, from whatever you do from morning till evening. So what is it about audio that is separate from, from the visual experience?
So this is how I've always thought about stories that I couldn't see. You see, I think speech it's a perfect thing because before anything else, when people couldn't see people had to, listen to, what people had said, and then we translate as journalists on what person X said. So we had to sort of develop a mental picture of this person, what they said, and when they were saying it. And then, of course, when sort of the image came through and TV became a big thing, or the ability for us to see, then we sort of not lost the sense of us imagining, but we had all these opportunities for us to see. We see the color, we see, the speech pattern, we see if someone is, being animated or not. And so we have, all this sea of fantastic things that you can see. But still, the idea and the ability of you as a person to create a mental picture for yourself is still the most empowering thing, I think, for every human. Because with this world where everything is being shown at you, sometimes you just want to slow it down. Okay, and the good thing about audio and the mobile phone, which is now our first screen really, is the fact that it does not stop you from doing anything else. You see, if I have to watch a YouTube clip, I have to stop and watch it. It demands my time and space, like here, watch me. Audio can do other things. You can drive while you listen. You can, do other sort of house chores as you listen. You can, write papers as you listen. It just removes you from these active mediums that every other thing demands.
And in recent times, we've seen the rise in terms of podcast audiences.
Yes,
growing.
Absolutely. So the world over, this has been something that, you know about it. The US has done fantastic podcasting. Publishers like Spotify and the rest have invested hundreds of millions of dollars to get podcasters into their platform. The UK as well, the continent, as I said, I like to think that storytelling is something that is inbuilt in Africa, because how we understood and how we were told culture, it was passed along over a period of time.
It's an oral culture that we
Exactly, it was through storytelling. So we're not really going too far. We're not trying to follow what they're doing. We're just going back to what was originally us. Just tell stories.
Okay. Yeah. Now, case number 0. Tell me about this, about this podcast.
Yeah, so case number 0 is first a story of a disappearance of this journalist and blogger. It's called Bogon Kobosire. He spent better part of his career working for the French agency AFP. So he was a wonderful guy who wrote for AFP, and then for some reason he fell off the wagon from AFP. And when he fell off the wagon, he started a blog, sort of like one of the first bloggers this country ever had. It's called the Jackal News, right? And in the blog, coming from a journalistic background, he tried to make it, something like, Washington Post, Huffington Post kind of thing. So he wanted to sort of compete with the mediums. That didn't work. And then he went to something else, which was now tell all manner of stories from politics to sleazy things, So he was swinging this pendulum. So he sort of created like the first blueprint of what blogosphere is in this country. And in that space, then he made friends, obviously in high places, because who could use his blog as a platform, and also made enemies, people who he would rub the wrong way. And so one day he woke up and he disappeared. No one has ever heard from him. No one has ever, told us what exactly happened to him, the moment when he disappeared, the day he disappeared. It's all sort of been a mystery. So for a long period of time, the last 7 years, his friends have been asking questions. And this podcast is exactly about that. It's about first tracing this person who's lost. Who was he? And then trying to answer questions on what could have happened to him, who knew what, when, where, and how. So it's a story about following this person. It's an 8-part series.
What's been the journey like?
For creating and telling this story, it's been one of many things. One, I think, for me, it's been sort of an insightful thing to see what happens when you slow down a story, because we're really slowing it down. We're not saying we'll do one piece at night and tell you everything that happened, because we realize it's going to be impossible. It could be fine. I mean, we could do it, and then the next day we could have all these, massive trends and what happened to him and that sort of thing. But we realized we wanted to slow it down. First, as a style. Two, the ability to talk to dozens of people and sort of bring all these voices together and sort of create a timeline of what has happened has been, one of those things that is a revelation. Then this thing has been worked on by so many people. My co-producer in the podcast, if you listen, called Vincent Chogu, she's traveling all the way from the US to come here to do interviews, going back, and other people. That journey has been sort of eye-opening on many ways. That one, on how this country works, the professional sort of relationships we have and responsibilities, friendship, and most important, I think, the value of a human being in this country. When you come to the later parts of the podcast, we'll talk about the data on missing persons or missing people and stuff, and the laws.
And in a sense, it's an audio investigation.
It is. We are trying very hard to say it's a story. Listen to the story.
Right.
Yeah, because we also, from our culture, we're very cognizant of our culture of, breaking news and running with things, which is a great thing. But also we're trying to say it's possible for us to slow down a story. Okay. And it's okay for us to slow it down. You're not losing anything to stay 6-5 weeks following one story, told week in, week out.
I just want to play a short clip of Case Number 0 podcast, just so you get a sense of what to expect when you go to nation.africa.
In September 2013, renowned journalist turned blogger Ogonko Bosire disappeared.
Hata hiyo siku disappeared. Alikuwa somehow anakaa, somehow disturbed kidogo.
He came back home a bit drunk. He was like a bit confused. I don't know why.
I must have been among the last people to see him.
Lakini mimi najua one day, one time, I believe in God. Atatokea.
My name is James Martz, and this is Case Number 0, coming soon.
Strange hearing back your voice and play it back to you.
It's never a good thing.
And it's quite captivating. I mean, this is stuff that you and quite gentle on the ear.
Yeah.
What was the experience of piecing it together as a production?
So, like I said, one, it's been worked by so many people, so I feel a bit guilty to be the one representing everyone else, because it's lots of people on the background, lots of people who work on the script, lots of people who work on the music, on the edits, and that sort of thing. I think for me personally, first from the feedback that I think we've got is, one, is people don't think that one simple story can be this complex and this captivating and this intriguing, And there are millions. This is just one, We're going to do, hundreds of stories, as you know. There's thousands of stories to do. And it's intriguing. Yeah, so that has been one thing. For me personally, is it's taken hours to work on it, days and weeks and months. The idea that we could do justice, one, to the family, and do justice to everyone who spoke to us. I mean, there are people who are being questioned and they're being put, you know, alleged to have done a few things or whatever. We made all the efforts to talk to them and represent them as human, right? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, I think, in the bigger scheme of things, to say it's possible for journalism to have a human face, to empathize, and to answer critical questions that are there in public. So this medium helps us to do this kind of thing. This story is a close story, I think, for journalists, I think, and bloggers and everyone else, partly because of the environment we operate in. We want to have a sense of certainty when you do your craft, that no one will come after you or your family, and people, if you go wrong, there are sort of places and institutions where you can be taken to and answer questions. So in the bigger scheme of things, that's what we were trying to sort. And it's not just we start here, but then, like I said, it's a whole sort of global thing. We have listeners not just in Kenya. The other day I was checking the stats, and we have all these people in Australia who are listening to us. And one of the producers was like, why are they listening to us? Why? Because we have some Swahili bits in there that we are deliberately leaving in there. We feel we don't want to translate them into English. Right. For reason that it carries emotion. When someone speaks in the original voice and they say things in a way that they can only say it, sometimes if you add another layer of interpretation of it, you lose it. So we're also not trying to tell this linear story. We're also trying to carry people with their emotions and be as sort of honest and as raw as we can in delivering this. And obviously it's in English.
That's right. We know it's ongoing, but for you, what's been the great learning just pursuing this story?
One, on a journalistic level, that I think there are other opportunities for us to expand and tell sort of different stories. Two, looking at how other podcasts have been done in terms of formatting and that sort of thing, you realize you can tell sort of very difficult and complex things in this way, in a very simple way. And to achieve that simplicity, then you have to do a lot of work in the background. For me, thirdly, it's been a journey and appreciation of, I think, what this country is. This country has a lot of amazing people and a lot of beautiful things that happen. And sometimes we don't, maybe we don't have the time and the space and the medium to just appreciate all these things. People who do great things by themselves, a group of small people. And, so we've met all these people and continue to meet them. When we're doing this story and we're talking about, the larger podcasting world, and see that there are many young people, many people who are just living their lives in different professions, who care about very small niche topics, doing their very own thing consistently. They are on episode 500 plus, and consistently doing this thing. And that's a beautiful thing to do, to feel and to see, because sometimes I think we also don't appreciate ourselves enough on what happens around us, enough. So that has been great to see. I've been watching and listening to a lot of podcasts. I think for our viewers, what we and our listeners, what we are promising is that we will curate content. It will not just be what sort of Nation produces. We will go out and create other content, and they will not be hard news content per se.
What kind of stuff should people expect beyond case number 0?
We are thinking on what to do with our sports. We're thinking on what to do with our arts, on how it is just to be in this space. One of the greatest things that we want to do is how to be inclusive, to create an inclusive society. So we're looking for content that helps us to go to these niche areas of inclusivity, not just, physical, but also, things that are culturally, barriers. We want to discuss those things. One of the best and greatest podcasts I think that I've listened to have been tearing around these areas, that it's about men and inability to speak about the things that are, hurting men, for instance. How do men show emotions and that sort of thing? How do women sort of scale up in this world or this country that is Kenya, professionally, those things are intriguing and important. And we feel we need to create these things into our space so that we help all of us to grow at the same time, So not just to do the hard news content, but as Carl said as well, is how do we make sure that we help us, all of us, to sort of scale the society that we are and answer questions that we have.
And for those watching who may want to meddle in the podcast space, what are your top tips in terms of what it takes to put together really a good podcast?
Right. So number one, I think the clarity of the topic that you want to discuss is very important. Spotify, a few months ago, when they were sort of celebrating, one of the publishers celebrating, I think, years in podcasting, they just said on Twitter, drop one word and we'll show you a podcast. All right?
Wow.
Literally anything. If today, I don't know if you're balding or what, but if you can go and say, you know, bald on Spotify or any of the publishers, there's a podcast. There are a couple of guys out there discussing, you know, how to live with your baldness and stuff, all right? So literally any topic, there's a podcast for it, right? So one thing I think is to have the clarity on the topic, number one. And two, I think to have this audacity and the boldness to experiment with different formats and different things, okay? Interview setups are very good, but not all topics are easy to discuss as interviews. You know, others could just take you, do a monologue. You know, you take your phone, you know, go out in the street, talk to yourself, talk to people, and that is a podcast. So I would say, you know, to clarity on the topic, to the boldness to try different ways of doing things, that carries something else, because this world, it's a sea of, it's millions of podcasts. So people to find you really have to have a niche and have a space. And three, talk to us. We are ready and able to help where we can. That's where we want to be, at the space we want to be. We want to help the podcasting sort of industry in this country to go to the next level and sort of play a little part in helping this industry sort of get a shape.
Equipment-wise, does one have to have professional equipment, recording gear?
They've made it so easy nowadays with a phone that you can record. You can record a voice. Most phones now record a perfect audio. You can actually go and download a simple free editing software. You can edit from your phone. It gives you good enough quality. Of course, you want to go to the next level, the professional one, then you need to, you know, buy microphones, you know, a small mixer, you know, find a quiet room somewhere where you and your friends, you know, or, you know, relatives want to do your podcast, and then edit. There's levels of podcasting, you know, up to now the professional level where, you know, you're putting everything, mixing thousands of voices together, you know, putting music, you know, commissioning music and that sort of thing. But that does not say that, you know, when you do this, people are going to listen. It just means that, you know, it's a different level of execution, right? So what I'm saying is you start from where you are. If the topic is good, you would grow with it. And there are tons of, you know, sort of tricks and hacks for you to start your podcast today, you know.
And just briefly, James, for you at a personal level, what's your approach? Do you write down stuff first? Do you research the story first? Do you go record and come and figure out what you brought back?
First, I create a short list of everything I have. So it's the first thing. So we go to the field, we record everything, and then we come and sort of write down everything that we have and say, we talked to Warung and they said 1, 2, 3, this is nice, you know, what do we have? It is noisy. We write all that thing down. Then the next now, we come and do sort of, you know, write to the audio that I have. Because the idea is to help you to create a mental picture. And I can't do that if I can't help you to do two things. One, if I have the audio, I want you to listen to it. Okay, so I'll not tell you anything. But if I can't have you listen to something, then I'll describe it for you. So I want to see the things that I have, and the things I don't have, I sort of describe them. You know, I do a descriptive things. So that is my process. Okay. It takes a lot of time. One of anecdotes that I have from doing this thing is we wrote a big script that went to hundreds of pages, and we got lost in it. And one day, one of the police I woke up, actually, is Vincent Chogu. She just wrote a red thing on our script. It's like, no more edits here, we are lost. So we closed that script and started a new one.
Over. Wow.
Yes.
It's got a bit of work. Okay.
It is.
And James, for those who want to catch up with case number 0, where do they go to?
Okay, great. So first things is we are putting this every Thursday on nation.africa page. We always upload it in the morning every Thursday. We're currently at episode 3. So if you go there right now, on the right side of your screen, you'll see a poster that says listen to .africa case number 0. Click it, it will take you to the current story, but you want to start from episode 1 because, as we say, this is a story that grows and keeps growing. So start there. It's easy to load. You can do literally anything else with your phone or in the computer while you listen to this, so it's easy to listen. We're not going to block your time. So listen.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, James Smart. So that's all the time we have for Your World today. We'll be back on Monday morning promptly at 7 a.m. Before then, we always love to start our day with a really good workout at 6:30 till 7. We have our professional trainers on standby from their homes, giving instruction from the comfort of your own home, using your own domestic appliances that you have in the house. So on behalf of the team here, my guests throughout the morning, and the NTV team and crew, thank you very much indeed. Do have a good weekend, stay safe, and see you Monday.